What a weekend it was of the Rugby Championship. The headline was that Argentina grabbed a famous win against South Africa. Los Pumas have now beaten all three of the other nations for the first time in the championship's history. And joining us today to discuss what's gone so well for them since Rugby World Cup is former Saracens and Pumas centre Marcelo Bosch. We have changed the structure. Today was supposed to be a Gallagher Premiership episode. The incredible weekend that we had in the Rugby Championship has meant that we have brought our Rugby Championship catch-up 1 week forward. We may well address it again next week. But having planned to save all things Southern Hemisphere for a whole championship review next week, we're talking all things Argentina today. Australia showed the first sort of signs of promise of the championship to scare the All Blacks in the second half. The headline is that Argentina became the first team to beat the world champion since their World Cup win in October. They've now won a fixture against New Zealand, Australia, and South Africa. So they've done the Tri-Nation sweep for the first time ever in the championship. They've got the opportunity to win the entire tournament on Saturday. Obviously, the odds are maybe not quite in their favour. Today's special guest might disagree, but we'll see. Joining us today, just over a year on from his last appearance, actually, is our friend and former Saracens and Puma centre, Marcelo Bosch. Marcelo, I'm guessing you're still celebrating for the weekend, from the weekend figuratively, but have you recovered?
Hello, Oli. How are you guys? Always a pleasure to be here with you. Yes, still recovering. It's been a great game from the team. Incredible result. You just mentioned it. It's the first time in the history that Argentina beat the three big ones of the South, New Zealand, Australia, and now South Africa, that they were the last champions of the world. So yes, it's very exciting to see the team developing, evolving of what they did last year. And well, we have a great game on the weekend. Of course, the odds are very tough for the team to be champions of the Rugby Championship, but still we have the opportunity, and for us is very exciting, of course.
On Saturday, I mean, you actually started fairly slowly, but what was interesting, I suppose, is the Argentinian DNA appears to be sort of rewriting itself. Skulkberger spoke about the scrum and the line-out, which have obviously been so integral to Argentina being a top 10 rugby playing nation, not necessarily being the points of difference. And obviously we saw that in the second half when it's the back line now, and there are so many impressors. Juan Cruz Malia is one of them. Santiago Chocobares, particularly this new fly half, Thomas Albornoz. He looks like a world beater. I mean, the attack, and we saw it against Australia as well, but what's it like watching a backline gel? Do you wish you were playing in that backline?
Oof, yes. I would have enjoyed a lot playing in this backline, but I don't know if it's the personnel. It's more the style of rugby that the team is producing nowadays. As you just mentioned, in the sense of the set piece, I think there's still room for improvement. Most of the scrum, last Saturday, our scrum was solid for the possession that we had, but was a bit poor in South Africa's possession. We conceded 3 penalties. Line out, it was okay the first half. Second half, when Etzebeth came in, we struggled a bit and we lost 3 possessions. But still, we can produce dangerous attacking opportunities, despite that our set piece is not ideal yet. And that's the exciting thing to watch nowadays from Argentina. You have players that it seems that they have clarity in their individual role, what to do when they stand up from the floor, where to go, how they can produce some questions to the defense. And well, against South Africa, we know that they like a lot the rush defense. Perhaps they are not rushing as they did last year or in the past 4 years with Nienaberg. I believe that they are now, it's not that they are passive, but before you could see that no matter what, they were always rushing. And nowadays, it seems that they have 2 systems. They could rush, but as well go up and wait. And I believe that Argentina played really smart. It seems that they thought about how South Africa could defend. and they were attacking the second pile of defenders. You had how's the name? You had the backline. The backline that you had players sweeping from behind, so they negate the rush defense to South Africa because it wasn't that obvious. And I believe all that played a role last weekend. And Argentina in 25 minutes scored 4 tries. They're scoring a lot of tries. That's the thing. They started poorly, 17 points down against Australia, the same. But it seems that they have the belief now that they could score at any time and come back to the scoreboard. And well, you need, of course, the game to do it, but as well the mentality to come back. And I think nowadays you start to see both of them. So well, of course, there's more consistency in the performance of the team, and that's of course exciting for everyone.
What does it mean to you? I mean, people will look at that game now, look at the starting lineups, and they'll say, okay, well, the Springboks will, a couple of big names missing, but you went in. There's no Buffelli. Gonzalez is on the bench. There's no Lavanini. I mean, those are really big human names of the here and now. I mean, okay, Lavanini's been around a fair old time, but he's still capable on a good day of being a seriously good player. I mean, it must give you massive confidence actually to think that you can achieve something like this with those guys either absent completely or relegated to the bench for one reason or another.
Yes, of course. I think that what you can see nowadays is more depth in the squad, and that is because Contepomi gave opportunity to new players that they played firstly against France in the June test matches, and now when they played against New Zealand and against Australia. And it seems that these new players that are coming in the team, they are showing and they are proving the confidence that they are given to them. Albornoz, he's been waiting for an opportunity to start a game since a long time ago because Santiago Carreras was playing as a starter 10 last World Cup the year before. And suddenly Albornoz had an opportunity against Australia. He did awesome. And nowadays, he did again a good performance against South Africa, which is another step, I believe, in the pressure that he could feel inside. So Albornoz came in, he's developing and he's playing great rugby. You had Oviedo as a number 8. He's proving a lot as well to the coaches. And it seems nowadays, at least I think Erasmus, he was brilliant, and his brilliance with this since a long time ago. When he thinks about a starter 15, I think he thinks about the complete game as a strategy with the impact of the bench. It's not that Malcolm Marx is the second best of Monami. I think it's the way that he thinks the game and the impact that in this case, the bomb squad could bring to the team. And I believe that Contepomi is doing a bit the same. Last weekend, you were matching South Africa after 55 minutes. You had one of the best players nowadays for Argentina, that is Matera. Matera is one of the leaders as well of the team. And well, Matera, he came off. And you say, what? He's playing brilliant. He's one of the leaders. But well, perhaps Matera, he played a lot of games before. Oviedo was more, I don't know, he had more energy. Gonzalez came for 25 minutes. So I think that coaches are thinking the game more for the 80 minutes with the impact of the bench and not if they are as a starter 15 or not. Because we know that Gonzalez is one of the best players, of course. But, he put him in the bench. He could refresh himself a bit as well in a sense and come flat out for 25 minutes. And I believe those things and decisions are giving confidence as well to the players. And as well, in a way, make the player think, well, I'm not the starter. If I want to start, I have to still compete for that position. It's not given to me. I have to prove it with performance. And all that creates a good atmosphere within the players, within the competition between itself. And nowadays you can see a more depth in the whole squad. And that's a good thing to see, of course, in Argentina.
And you say
Sorry,
something like Albanos, it'd be untrue to say he's suddenly sort of come from nowhere. I mean, I've been watching him for 2 years now with Benetton, and he is arguably the major reason Benetton are now a serious team in the URC. He's been terrific for a long while. He's just been biding his time, waiting his moment. And of course, Santiago Carreras has also been playing very well. There hasn't been that much opportunity to get that start at 10. So that is an enviable position for Argentina to now have the choice of two, because you felt like, there was a bit of a changing of the guard there, wasn't there, at a halfback? You needed somebody to step up at 10. So that's been terrific. The other thing that strikes me about what's happened now is that Argentina for years have got the thin end of the wedge when it comes to the schedule, to the fixtures. It's always played against Argentina. Now, this time, because they're doing this new format in the championship, it's worked out really nicely. They got to Australia early doors, didn't they? They played, or down south there, they played the 2 matches. They had a week there. They played the 2 matches. They came back 2-week rest. They've now had 3 matches on the bounce in Argentina. They're at home. They're rested. They're not jet lagged. It's South Africa flying in. And although it's a very, very tough task this weekend, the Boks have also got to fly back. They've got that dislocation. They got their home advantage is no more advantage this week, really. Both sides have got to fly 15 hours to South Africa. So
Yeah, that's true.
just for once, the schedule has worked really nicely for Argentina.
Yes, I agree. That's true. To be here in either Buenos Aires, or some of the players that could live in the provinces could go to their families for at least 4 or 5 days, and now come back to Buenos Aires, the capital, to train, and go to Santiago del Estero, Santa Fe to play the games, but come back again to Buenos Aires and not flying away to New Zealand, as you just mentioned, as it was in the past. I think the schedule played really well for Argentina. And yes, of course, there's no home advantage in the sense of the hours of flight, because South Africa has to fly back as well to South Africa to play the game. But well, of course, there's the home advantage of playing at home. Imagine South Africa now receiving Argentina after the defeat. Loads of players that were rested for this team that we will face on Saturday. So it will be massive. But in the sense of how we play the role of not flying that much or playing 3 games in a row, I think it was a good thing for the team, of course.
Talking of home advantage, Marcelo, why did the Pumas ever play in Buenos Aires now? Why don't you just take the game out in the sticks, where you seem quite fragile in Buenos Aires for some reason, or just performance levels just seem to drop. It's a bit like the All Blacks in Wellington. It's transparently the weakest of their strongholds.
Yes, I never thought about it. Well, this Rugby Championship, yes, we played against France in Vélez Sarsfield. It wasn't a good game, but well, Argentina could have the victory. And yes, the first game against Australia, we played in La Plata. It's in Buenos Aires, but not in the capital. We had a defeat against a team that we thought that we could beat. We had a good opportunity against Australia that, well, nowadays is having some signs of improvement. But yes, the 2 big performances of the team were away from the capital, Santiago, Santa Fe. It's very nice for the team to play away from the capital and to bring the rugby to the provinces so they could breathe the team. What are they doing? Imagine the province when they receive the team for the whole week. It's pretty special because it brings everything more tighter. But yes, I didn't think about it. That Buenos Aires is a spot that, yes, that we are not perhaps having our best performances. That's true.
Mind you, you're having to go to, I think it's Nelspruit, isn't it, this weekend? Which is Mpumalanga, is it? I think it's Mpumalanga, Bren, isn't it?
I think so. But again,
those of us who went to Mpumalanga in '97 would never want to go there ever again, because that was like the dirtiest match on the Lions tour. That was where Dottie Weir got his
Stamped
knee
on and got
stamped
his
on. I
knee
mean, it
done.
was a really bitter place to go. But that was Vitbank, wasn't it? Not Nelsborough. So, yeah.
I never been to Nedbury,
No,
so don't know the atmosphere, the stadium. They told me that it's pretty, of course, pretty nice. Even Skalberger, I spoke with him because I know that he's going to be in the transmission on Saturday. Well, he's going tomorrow. He played over there. Of course, it's not Cape Town or Johannesburg, but well, it's still good to bring the rugby elsewhere.
Which again, in my mind, could play a little bit to the Pumas. I mean, it is a lovely purpose-built modern stadium, etc. It will be a great atmosphere, but it's not one of the citadels.
it's
You
not.
know,
It's not
it's not
Loftus or Ellis
Pretoria.
Park, is it?
It's not Cape Town. It's not Ellis Park. It's not Kings Park. You know, it's just another little 5% that might help the Pumas because let's face it, they are going to need some help this weekend. And I'm just thinking here how costly that defeat, that sloppy
Yeah,
defeat against Australia was. They had the winning of that match. It wasn't a great match, but
Yes,
they had the winning of it. And if they had somehow scraped through there, my God, this would be a match this weekend. It would be winner
yeah,
take all. And,
yeah,
Argentina by 1 point, I think that's possible. Argentina having to get 4 tries, win by more than 8, etc., becomes very, very, very difficult.
yeah,
yes,
You'll
I
know
agree.
Contepomi very well, Marcelo. I mean, I thought he was one of the great players of his time. Actually, I mean,
I agree.
in good and bad. I think his contribution, especially as a 12, actually at World Cup level was off the scale because the Argentines weren't always terrific. I mean, they seem to have one tournament on, one tournament off, but he was an absolutely consistent high performer in that side. What do you think? And he's clearly a very intelligent guy. What do you think he's capable of bringing as a coach?
That's a very good question. Well, his start as a coach was in Argentina when he retired. He retired in 2013, I believe it was after the Rugby Championship in Rosario against Australia. And he stayed for a year over here. And well, I assume that it was quite difficult because he was a player not that far away from when he started being a coach. It must be difficult and challenging to, from one day to another one, step to a different role position with players that perhaps you've been involved and making your first steps. Surely was challenging for him, but later on he went to Leinster for 3-4 seasons, I believe it was. Leinster in the last years is one of the best teams, of course, of Europe. At the time, you had, I believe, Sexton still. Well, unbelievable team. And he went over there, I think, for the experience of being a coach. Of course, he wasn't the head coach, but still an assistant coach and being involved in a team with players with a lot of knowledge and experience. And surely those years brought him a lot of knowledge, brought him a lot of, I would say, not peace, but inside himself, say, well, nowadays, this is my role. That player that I was, well, is gone. Is gone for a bit. And now I'm here as a head coach. The first step, staying in Argentina, was an experience. Now I have to take this experience to another level. And surely he learned loads in the sense of communicating. Of course, when you're an old player, an experienced player, you are starting to be like a role model or an inside coach, being a player with the young kids and all that you can bring into the team. But well, to be the head coach and being a part is a different thing. And surely there in Leinster, he learned loads in the sense of the game, in the sense of the management of players, the dynamics of different personalities. There's loads to take in consideration to be a good head coach, to bring the best out of the team. And he came back. He was the assistant coach of Michael Cheika for 1 year and a half, 2 years up to the World Cup. He was a lot involved, I know, but he wasn't the last man to take decisions. And now, well, I think that's experience of being in Leicester, being in Argentina, but as a second coach, not the head coach making the tough decisions, that brought him a lot of experience. That experience with his knowledge of the game itself and the intelligence that he has in how he sees the game and how he can manipulate defenders or how to manage a game in certain ways, well, that gave him a lot of knowledge in the table. And well, nowadays, in only 2-3 months, you are seeing something new, really. He says that it's an evolution of what he started before with Michael Cheika. Surely it has some impact, but in a little time, you can see new things in the team, even players developing themselves in the technical aspect, in the sense of being intelligent, in the sense of the discipline, being lucid, near the rocks, when to go to the ball or not. Argentina is very good nowadays in their discipline as well. So for me, all of that, surely you have to take in consideration not only the players, but the head coach that brings the players alive, in the sense.
Like Marcelo, was there a backlash after the World Cup? And that sounds a bit odd because you reached the semi-finals, but a disappointing defeat against 14-man England and a very disappointing semi-final performance, completely outclassed by New Zealand. So although you came, reached the semi-finals, there wasn't a feel-good factor. I didn't feel it anyway. And has there been a sort of collective backlash from players, coaches? We're better than this. We are a good team. We're going. That was just a bit of a blip, a bad blip, but that was a blip onwards. Is that a dynamic that's been happening?
Yes, of course. The first game against England was a setback, a surprise for the team, even for myself, because Argentina arrived to the World Cup in good conditions. They were very happy about the preseason that they made, how the players were physically, mentally, learned from past experiences, and suddenly you go to the best, to the most important game of the World Cup, that was the first one against England in a pool that was challenging, but well, you could tell that Argentina and England were the top teams in the pool, and well, it was a shock, a big shock, because England shocked Argentina with 14 men. They shocked them in a way that they couldn't have any response in the game. And well, after that shock and setback, Argentina had to go back to the fundamentals of the game as well. They tried to play a brand of rugby against a team of England that they were squeezing them in defense, taking time in the decision making, in the execution, and suddenly things didn't happen, and England grew in energy, in belief, and at the end was very hard for the team. But well, after that, they didn't play great rugby, I would say, against Samoa, against Japan, against Chile, but they could make it. And against Wales, perhaps they showed, most of all in the second half, the best performance of the World Cup in the moment that it mattered the most to qualify to a semi-final. And in the semi-final, another poor performance against New Zealand. And well, as you just mentioned, I think that Argentina qualified to the semi-final without playing the best rugby. But well, the pool and the the draw helped them a lot. And well, that was a massive, of course, experience for Contepomi, for the players. Now starting a new process of 4 years for the next World Cup, Contepomi head of everything. And well, they are developing a lot, because against France in June, they started poorly. And suddenly you can see another team in the field. And well, we'll see what happened now on Saturday. It's a big challenge for them, not only in the sense of the team that they have to face once again, but in the sense of them inside, in the sense of being competitive, being emotionally strong to perform once again. And I believe that's the thing that Argentina has to grow, and hopefully we can have a good game on Saturday. Despite if we lose or not, hopefully the team can produce this rugby and be mentally ready to the challenge that
It's
it's going
it,
to be challenging. Eh?
it's funny what you're saying in terms of the post World Cup reaction. I'm sure Brennan and Chris will agree. A lot of that sort of resonates with the English perspective. Obviously, we also got to a semi-final. Obviously, we came out on top in that bronze match, but no one wants to be in the bronze final. So I don't think that was much consolation, I suppose. We also felt that we got lucky in terms of the draw. We also felt we weren't necessarily playing an attractive brand of rugby that a nation could truly get behind to get there. And I think Brendan and Chris all agree. Say our best performance came against South Africa. Had we won that semi-final, we would have felt like we cheated our way to a Rugby World Cup final in some ways. Brendan's nodding, Chewy's laughing. I'm guessing they're not disagreeing because they're quiet, which is usually a fairly good barometer. What's happened since is, again, very similar to what's happened in Argentina. New brand of rugby. England has taken maybe a couple of extra games to kick in, but is what we're seeing actually one, rugby itself is more conducive to that running brand. The Box did it a few years ago or a couple of years ago where they all of a sudden said, okay, well, yes, have the set piece as the foundation for sure, but you need more than that. And also in terms of buy-in from a nation, during the Six Nations, we finally started to get a bit of an England fan buy-in in a way that we hadn't had. And I'm sure Argentina would be the same in that obviously if a country's not inspired by the brand that it's producing, there's not going to be the buy-in as well from the fans.
Yes, I totally agree. I think the style of rugby that Argentina play nowadays, you can identify with the team because, against South Africa, they not only played well in the sense of the attack and scoring 4 tries. Defensively, they were very good as well. They could be very aggressive in the contacts. They were solid as a unit in defense. And because of that, they got the win as well. And Argentina, we proud ourselves in our defense always. Of course, the attack is important and more nowadays in the sense of keeping possession and being dangerous to defenses and being creative in the way that you play. But as Argentinians, as emotional human beings, our flag was always defensively, and it's still. And I believe from that good performance defensively, you can bring the other phases of the game into play. And I think against South Africa, we did it. We did it massively. The team is evolving in different aspects of the game. Defensively, they have urgency to have numbers on feet. They are more lucid in the breakdown. We need more, perhaps, hands in the breakdown. Perhaps we don't have much the personnel. Montoya is one of them. But yes, you need to inspire people for them to follow you and to feel identified to your team in a way. Yes, I agree.
This all goes back, Marcelo, doesn't it, to what we said right at the start about the foundations of the Puma game and the fact that the scrum and the line-out still has some work to do. Because it seemed to me the great Argentine performances in the World Cup, 2007, 2015, there was an enormous amount of belief that you could express yourselves in the way that you've been talking about. And that they were very different teams in terms of personnel, but some thrilling rugby on big occasions. It's a little bit different at the moment because your forward pack, particularly the Type 5, aren't at 2007 level. And I don't think they're at 2015 level, frankly. But you can get there. Those are the kinds of things you can fix.
Yes.
Belief or lack of belief is very difficult because it's intangible.
Totally agree. Before the game last weekend, we were talking with, friends, pundits in the TV. It's like with Argentina, the past 4 years, whenever we played a team, either South Africa, whoever, it was very challenging for us to know where the team was at because they were capable of playing a really good brand of rugby and being competitive and suddenly beat the All Blacks, for example, and the weekend after concede 50 or 60 points. So that inconsistency was surely mentally, but as well in the sense of the foundations of the game. Because for 1 week to the other one, perhaps you have your own possession when you have the scrums or the lineouts, but it seems that 7 days later, you didn't have even your possession. And nowadays, if you want to bring a good brand of rugby and have a good attacking phase and being dangerous, you need possession. You can't not have possession of your balls, at least in the sense of my scrums, my lineouts. And against South Africa, there's still room for improvement, but our possession at least was pretty good. 4 scrums, good solid foundation to start the play. Imagine the first try of Argentina. Everything started from a scrum in the left-hand side. 3 phases and we score. But that started from a solid platform. If at least we have our solid platform in our possession, we are capable of producing the good rugby. The thing is when we are not in that level with our possession, and well, nowadays, set-piece possession, if you want to play rugby, you need that.
Yeah.
And perhaps it's not as solid as before, but at least our possession was okay. Well, the thing is now, how can we improve when we scrum against South Africa and not receive 3 or 4 penalties? Because we know penalty, 50 meters, line out, driving maul, and they can score from there. So I think we need to evolve. It's not as bad as other moments, but there's still room for improvement in the foundations of the set piece. But well, it still proves you that if you have your possession and still you are not performing in the others, well, Argentina nowadays has the belief that they can create opportunities from nowhere, from counter-attack, from the facing attack the structure that we are having nowadays, and we can still score tries. 4 tries against South Africa in 25 minutes, 4 tries against New Zealand when we played over there, almost 70 points against Australia. That is something that is not common in our teams. So yes, I'm very happy to watch the flavor of rugby that we are playing, of course.
And just on that, Marcelo, it's a sort of momentum thing. It's worth reflecting that 2 of your best backs have been in a Toulouse side that have just done Heineken or European top 14 double, and they've been starters and they've been influential players. They're on a roll. These guys have just improved week on week, month on month for the last 2 years, 3 years. They've been great signings, by the way, by Toulouse. They weren't named players when Toulouse signed them. They were promising lads. So they bring all that back. You've got Albanos has been running the show for Benetton. He gets to run his team. They're doing pretty well. So he comes back in full of confidence. And you got on the week, Mateo Carreras is an incredible player, but he hasn't had much opportunity yet for Argentina. Suddenly, they're bringing him into the game because that's the way how the lads like to play it. And you've got a back division that if you get 35% possession, you're still going to be in the game because you can strike from miles away. And the other thing that always strikes with Argentina, it's the perennial miracle. You guys play in France, Italy, England, Scotland, Japan. You bring them together and it happens. This side of the Atlantic, we think that, we make excuses. You can't do that. You've got to have intensive training camps for months and months. You've got to have access all the time. Of course you haven't. If you've got good players playing good rugby in great rugby environments, you bring them back. You might need a warm-up game or 2, as was the case against France, but it gels pretty quickly after that, and we've seen what happens.
Yes, I agree. Well, if you recall, after 2015, the European players could be selected to play the national team. Well, the national team didn't perform as we know that it could in those years up to the World Cup of 2019 that we didn't qualify to the quarterfinals. And nowadays, everything is open. We lost a team that was playing in the Super Rugby, the franchise of Jaguares. So all the players suddenly went back to Europe or elsewhere. And I always believed that for me, it could give you more strength than weakness when you bring players from other competitions. Because they bring experiences from other cultures, other ways of playing. They can um, they can improve as players, learn new things, and when you bring that into a team, I believe that you can only add value. Look nowadays, South Africa. South Africa, since they joined the North Hemisphere as well, and they have the Curry Cup, I think that they have the best of both schedules. And nowadays, when you see New Zealand and Australia, that Australia, if we remember and we recall in 2015, with this, I think it was the Gito law. I don't know how was the name. If you played 40 cups for Australia before, you could be brought to play the World Cup. You could tell that there were players playing in Europe that could add value to them. And nowadays they are thinking, or there's been conversations in New Zealand. What should we do? Should we follow? Should we? Because economically as well, to play in the North Hemisphere, it's another, it's another budget that players could go over there, earn more money. And it's not only about the money, it's as well to have a new experience as another, as playing in another tournament with other players, experience of life with your family. So, Argentina nowadays, yes, I think that you bring all this together with a good head coach that brings clarity to the plan and what he wants in the game. And now you have the results. And as you just mentioned, Malia, Chocobares playing in Toulouse, they are only improving other players as well. And you bring those experiences into your team. You want to play an attacking style. Toulouse plays attacking style. Malia, he's been unbelievable. He's the eyes sometimes of the 10, so the 10 can release pressure because he's being the leading as well back, that he's shouting the moves or whatever. So yes, we are in a good space nowadays, but results in the higher level always, how can I say it in a good way? You can have a good process, but results, we know in professional rugby, are the ones that at the end valid or not the process. And nowadays, Argentina, despite that they are winning or not, they are being competitive, and it's a validation of whatever they are doing in the back doors.
I think you make a really interesting point there. I could understand why the Jaguares was set up. I didn't think in the end it was going to be, I didn't think at the start it was necessarily going to be a great idea. Because if you've got the same bunch of guys playing for almost 52 weeks a year, you get bored witless with each other, wouldn't you? And there's nothing new coming in. And
totally.
So you've gone the other way, and you've got a very cosmopolitan-minded head coach now, because Contepomi played in Bristol under Bob Dwyer. He spent time at Leicester,
Richmond,
as you say. I mean, it's just, I mean, he's
been in France
the kind
as well.
of guy who's not just wrapped up in a sort of straitjacket of his own country. He's got all sorts of influences inside him anyway. And so it means he can bring all that stuff together in a head coach's role. And I think you've got a bloody good model actually now. I think that works for you, and it will continue to work.
Yes,
and I'll add one little caveat to that. I totally agree with Chris. The overseas players playing where they're happy has been the key. But the Jaguares experiment did have one big benefit, and that was it really hardened those guys up. They were traveling the world. They were playing. There was no easy match, not a single easy match. Mentally, they had to really toughen up. And don't forget, the last season of Super Rugby, they got to the final, which is one of the unheralded achievements, I think, on the Argentinian rugby spectrum. Now, it ran its course, but there's a generation there who know what it's like to play these Southern Hemisphere giants week in, week out, and they know what it takes to beat them, because they nearly won the whole thing the last time they did it. But then you push that to one side. That was almost like not a necessary journey, but it served a purpose. And then you bring back all the creativity and what makes Argentinian rugby special with these players expressing themselves.
Yes, I believe that it was a good experience in the sense of being involved in in an annual competition. We seek to have an annual competition because you want to create more depth in players for them to be able to play in another level. In the sense, in Argentina, either you play amateur level. Now we have the Super Rugby Americas, which is a tournament that we want to improve in the sense of the quality and more teams involved. And next year we will have one more team from the north west of Argentina. So we'll have a third professional team that will play that league. But it's a league that doesn't have the level of a Super Rugby or a Premiership or Top 14. But well, we are trying as a structure to give time to players to develop themselves, not only in the amateur level. So I think it served the purpose. But well, as you just mentioned, we reached the final of the Super Rugby, but we didn't reach the quarterfinal of the World Cup because it took a toll from the players.
Too much.
They were the same players playing for the Jaguares, and suddenly after 4 months, final, and it's done. And we need now to process that in 2 months we are having a World Cup with the same group of players. And where's the excitement as well to bring new players when you get together and you play for the national jersey? It was like they were taking out the Jaguares shirt to put the national shirt. And I don't know, I surely was difficult to manage, but well, it was like that. And now with that experience and with this new format, I believe that we are taking the best of what we have in our hands. Surely we want a team playing perhaps in the Currie Cup or in New Zealand, but well, even in New Zealand now, I don't know if the Super Rugby still has the level as it was 10 years ago. And I believe, and when you see now even New Zealand, Australia, well, the three, for me, when I used to play 10 years ago, well, it was the three giants of the South. And now with the involvement of England, France, Ireland, even Scotland, I think that everything is more level nowadays.
The balance is shifting.
It's the balance is shifting.
But talking of annual tournaments, what's going to happen with the Rugby Championship now that South Africa and New Zealand have declared independence? I've got things to say about that, actually.
I think, Chewy, that is a big topic. Let's save that for next week.
Okay.
Because we will do it next week. But speaking of annual championships, I do want to open a sort of a nice Six Nations comparison. I'm going to hit you with some stats. Since the Tri Nations has become the Rugby Championship, there have been 12 separate championship wins. 10 of them have been New Zealand. Obviously, from a Northern Hemisphere perspective, and I'm aware we can be fairly insular at the best of times, that has maybe led us to sort of regard the Rugby Championship as maybe a secondary tournament relative to the Six Nations in the same time period. Ireland won 4 Six Nations, Wales won 4, England won 3, France won 1. Obviously, there are a couple of extra teams in there, but even so, what we're seeing really is obviously the mark of a good tournament is unpredictability. We're going to have a different winner this year. New Zealand aren't going to win their 5th on the bounce. And what we're seeing is, Argentina could finish above New Zealand. I mean, when's the last time that happened? That may, I
don't think it's ever happened, is it?
I would imagine it probably hasn't. That's a pretty significant changing of the landscape. And Marcelo, probably what's needed in terms of elevating the Rugby Championship globally, not just in the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah, totally. Well, the thing is that we were used to see and witness, for me, one of the best teams in the history of this sport, the team of New Zealand of the past decade, that they were champions in 2011, in 2015. I'm not saying that this team of New Zealand is not good. If you see the individuals, wow, it's unbelievable. But the other team had leadership, had, I don't know, another thing. Imagine Kane or Mako with Reed, Wildlock and Rhetoric in the best moment. Aaron Smith with Carter, Manonu and Smith. I don't know. I'm not saying that the ones that are playing nowadays aren't good enough. For me, they are very good. But for me, that team had something more.
I don't use the word great very often. It's overused. That 2015 side and in the year or so leading into that, that was a genuinely great rugby team.
Yes. And you can and we have to be fair. Well, even Australia in 2015 they
They were
were
good.
finalists.
Well,
Poof, you had
really
amazing
good.
players,
Yeah.
and now Australia they are facing a deep. It's not only about the game. I think it's within the structure and the sport itself in Australia. I think rugby league is taking a toll as well in what is happening in rugby union. I'm not aware of everything that is happening inside, but you can tell that, well, Australia is not the same as it was 10 years ago. So, well, you see, yes, South Africa that evolved a lot, past two champions of the world, but in the North Hemisphere, I think you can see evolvement. I think that the teams evolved a lot. Ireland, France, England as well. Scotland, they are playing a good round of rugby since years and years ago. Wales, well, it has its batches, but well, 4 times they were champions of the Six Nations, as Oli said. Italy is getting interesting rugby now under Quesada. So I think it's more level nowadays in the top rugby. But well, you still have 3 or 4 teams that are above the others, that for me were last year or the last World Cup, South Africa, New Zealand, Ireland, and France. But England is always there. Scotland is opening the door. Argentina now is opening the door. I don't know. I'm very excited about what I'm seeing nowadays. Before it was always New Zealand and another one. Now I think it's more open to everything. Oh, South Africa is the best, but in any given day, France could beat them. Ireland beat them in June. So I don't know. I think it's exciting for everyone to see more, how you say, a more level competition between teams.
Australia 10th in the world rankings.
Crazy.
It's crazy, yeah.
They're 10th.
Absolutely crazy.
I mean, Italy and Fiji are ahead of Australia.
Fiji play well the World Cup,
and they deserve to be.
And we still don't know if Fiji are going to be in the Nations Championship.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks, but no one's willing to say for sure. We know 8 teams that are definitely going to be in it, and Japan will be in it for sure because they bring a big market, they bring a lot of money and financial muscle and all that kind of stuff. But Fiji,
yeah.
Hopefully we can help those nations to still develop. Fiji, they were amazing in the World Cup.
Yeah,
they played really well.
Everyone wants to see them. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I know organisationally they've been a bit of a basket case for a long time, and quite often the army gets involved in selection or whatever the hell goes on over there. But it's they do have a new governance structure and some they World Rugby, in fairness to them, have done quite a lot of work, I think, trying to knock that thing into shape over there, and I think they're reasonably satisfied with the way things have developed over the last 2 or 3 months. So at least they're back on the council with a vote, Fiji.
Yes.
But they don't bring any money to the table.
And that's why.
And that might be a tough thing going forward for them.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Guys, let's look at, we've sort of already touched upon the fixture this weekend. I'll sort of rehash the permutations. Had Argentina grabbed that win against Australia in their first fixture, it would have been a shootout, winner takes all. Now that would, like Brendan says, that would have been quite something. As it is, Argentina need 5 points without South Africa getting any. So they need to score 4 tries, win by more than 8, and have South Africa not score 4 tries as well. That's the only way they win the Rugby Championship. And so
you should get out more.
You're telling me in this tiny little booth. It's obviously, well, the South Africa team is out, and the sort of headline, I suppose, is Manny Lebok is starting at 10. That's something we haven't spoken about. Is obviously this would have been a very different discussion had he kicked his goal with 1 minute to go. It's an interesting story, and Cello, I will come to this as a goal kicker, but he was hooked against England in the Rugby World Cup semi-final. He hasn't been on the field for South Africa since. He comes on, obviously there was scrutiny about his goal kicking anyway. Handré Pollard was the antithesis of that during Rugby World Cup, didn't miss a thing, won them the semi-final and obviously slotted everything in the final. Lebok then comes on and misses a kick like that, where, I mean, a goal kicker yourself, you're backing yourself to get that kick probably 99 times out of 100, and he misses it badly. Um, First of all, how do you come back from that as a kicker? I'm sure you've had your low points. And second of all, what does it say that Lebok is starting? Is that a show of faith from Rassi, or rather he doesn't want money on the field? He wants Handré Pollard on the field with 20 minutes to go.
Um, yes, of course, it was tough for him, surely. Yes, because even when he kicked, it seems that he forced the jest and the ball went straight into the left. If he had any chance to cross over the post and win the game. So surely mentally, it played a role. The pressure, of course, of making the kick. Surely Ras is backing him up and giving him confidence that, well, he has faith in him. If we see the number 10 of South Africa this year, it was more Gomezulu. For me, brilliant talent.
Oh.
It seems that he has a mix of Pollard in the sense of how he kicks and a mix of Lebok, because I like the way that he plays with the hand and the vision of the game. For me, it's a talent. And he's only, I think, 22, 23 years old. But, well, he's injured. And, well, Lebok, he's an extraordinary player. But, well, in the sense of his kicking, and we know that for South Africa, of course, is fundamental. The World Cup, Pollard, if Pollard wasn't there, perhaps they wouldn't been able to beat France in the quarterfinals. And, well, how you come back from that, of course, is very personal. Training always helps, and carry on training and training your gesture and thinking why perhaps I closed the foot or I came more quickly with my jest, because perhaps he thought that he needed to, I don't know, to apply more speed into the gesture and to the leg. Those things are very technical, and it's only yourself that you know what what went wrong. But, well, I think it's mentally how you come back. Well, still trying, still backing yourself up, still showing yourself and not hiding. And I believe that when you still put yourself in those positions and still believe in yourself, hopefully in a point it will, I don't know, it will be in your favor. And when it does, it gives you massive confidence, and perhaps, I don't know, even your career can change. Yeah? We know the mentality in this game.
I was in Paris. One match-winning kick that sticks in my mind was at Cologne when Saracens played Racing, and you kicked. I think it was the last kick of the game. I think from your own half, certainly from halfway, maybe in your own half. And I remember it particularly because Maxime Machinot, the Racing scrum half, who was a bloody good player, and he played the house down that day. He'd been absolutely outstanding, and he collapsed in tears. It was so you broke his heart. I hope you feel really guilty about it. I assume that those match-winning kicks from long range are easier temperamentally, emotionally almost, than the kick that Lebok faced, which everyone expected him to get, because he didn't look very confident when he was addressing that, to my eye anyway.
Me too. I was watching the TV, and I think it was my wife. Well, this is an easy kick. I told her, you know what? Wait, still is 37 meters, 35, a bit into the right of the post. I believe that perhaps for us, or for right foot, when you're in the left, is perhaps easier, because you can even shape with your foot, kick it into the right post and bring it back. I thought of course, it's doable. A good kicker should make it, but still you have to kick it. It's not in the 25-meter line. Yeah. And well, pressure built. He knew, of course, it was the game. And well, pressure makes good players in any sport. To suddenly was the right word. Not being successful. I don't know. There's a word that doesn't come into my mind. But well, it happens. It's sports. We are humans. That proves that we are humans. And well, that proves that the mentality sometimes is even more important than the talent itself. And well,
it is interesting that Lebok has been given the start at the weekend.
Yes.
Another guy that has is Eben Etzebeth. Chewy, I'll come to you. He's going to break Victor Matfield's record of 127 caps. Sorry, I think Matfield's on, so this is 128th. He could well end up with 150 plus. I think he probably will, but still a hell of an achievement. Most cap Bok of all time.
Oh, he's absolute. I mean, if you were looking back over your rugby life and you were going to pick, I don't know, 10 locks, let's say, who just absolutely would be on your list of all-time greats, he'd be well in that group. Well in that group. And we're talking about people like John Eales or Martin Johnson. Albacete had his had a few moments. I mean, crikey, what a good player he was at his best. But no, Etzebeth he has that air of sort of darkness about him, doesn't he? A bit like Johnson did. He's obviously not someone you particularly want to have a fight with in an alley behind a bar on a Saturday night because you'll lose. I think he does it all. His ground coverage is remarkable. His handling used to be underrated, but it's of the highest levels. He's an outstanding line-out performer, as he showed at the weekend. I'm sure he scrummages the house down. It's a bit hard to tell if you're watching it on the TV, but he just brings... More than anything, he is a massive obstacle for the opposition to get over if they're going to win a game. You have got to beat Etzebeth somewhere, somehow, if you're going to win the game. And that's a big ask. And that is the definition of a great player. It doesn't all have to be physicality. You had to beat Dan Carter as well, or you had to beat Michael Jones. Genuinely great players. But my goodness, he has been a tremendous player over a very long period of time now. And I remember the excitement about him right at the start of his career, and people right at the start were saying, this is a great player in the making. Well, we've heard that 1,000 times, but this bloke has fulfilled every expectation, and I take my hat off.
And it's a bit of a disgrace that he hasn't yet won or been awarded the World Player of the Year. I mean, in fact, sometimes he doesn't even get nominated. I can't remember a season when he hasn't been one of the world's top 5 players. Not in the last decade. He's always one of the world's top 5 players. And I think more than once he's been the world's best player.
It's because he stares at the selection committee.
I had to laugh. You were saying he's got that menacing air, and he has. But he's a pretty disciplined player, isn't he? He stays on the park.
Yeah.
He stays on the park.
But he always gives you the impression that he could be wild if it really came to it. Yeah.
And something to add is the presence that he has in a pitch.
Great word. Exactly that.
The work rate, the presence, he even chases kicks. He's the fastest of everyone, and he's everywhere. For me, it's nowadays top 5 of the world, top 3 perhaps. For me, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. It's very refreshing. You have a habit of slagging off men that you would definitely lose to a fight to on this podcast.
Well, that's
it's refreshing to hear you praise one.
That's because, I'll tell you what Etzebeth brings you. He brings you Bakis Botha and Victor Matfield.
Yeah, he's exactly that.
Yes,
that's
a combination. He can do either of those things.
Yeah.
And frequently does them both in the course of a game, depending on the situation. I mean, the only other second row, I think, individually who had that range, and it was a very different character, was John Eales, who might be still the greatest lock I ever saw because he kicked goals. And I mean, it was just stupid, the range of his abilities. But for Etzebeth to combine the real tractor, the engine lock, with the athleticism of a number 5 is
Yes,
is a hell of a thing. He's a
I agree.
yeah.
Guys, I think the time has come where I need a prediction out of all of you. Um, we'll just get a prediction for Argentina, South Africa.
Could I just ask that you send all this to Eben Etzebeth? Because
Wrap it up.
because I just want him to know I like him.
I'm sure that'll touch his heart, Chewy. I'm sure it will. I'll get us going. I think it's going to be South Africa by a score. Cello, I'm really, really sorry. I think the home advantage, I think the Box have obviously picked their big guns. I think they will get it done. And I'm waiting for you to tell me otherwise and to give me hope of otherwise, because I would so love for Argentina to win again at the weekend.
It's going to be really tough. If I have to be objective of what I think, I would say the Box would win. But perhaps if, I don't know, if the bus doesn't reach the stadium, we could have a go. No, seriously, I think it's going to be really challenging and tough for the team. Of course, I have my hope. I think this team is surprising and it's giving hope to people when we watch them play. And I have that inside myself, and of course, willing to watch them play well and win. But it's going to be really, really challenging. Hopefully, they can be good and they can perform, and I don't know, and at least be competitive.
Chewy, Bren, are either of you backing the Pumas other than at heart, which I think we all are?
Yeah, that's about it. I mean, I think they will. They've sort of backed up, haven't they? This is always our worry with them. They've now got 2 huge wins
Yeah.
on the bounce. I think they will back up with in terms of performance. I think it could be a cracking match. I think they've poked the bear. I think South Africa are going to be pretty angry, pretty revved up, and it would be a surprise if they didn't do that. Can I just add one thing? I think we're in danger of downplaying exactly what Argentina have done in the last 6 weeks. How many other teams, certainly this part of the world, have beaten Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa in the space of 6 weeks?
Oh,
I'll give you another little stat. They've beaten New Zealand 3 times since 2020. So that's 3 times in 4 years. That's as many times as Wales have done it in 120 years.
Wow.
Wow. That is mad. That is absolutely mad. Chewy, anything to add on top of that?
I mean, I think you guys have nailed it, really. I mean, look, if it's a 1-score game after 65 minutes, I think anything can happen because it'll be fast going. I think the Pumas will have some confidence about them. They do have a back division that can rip people up, and they're fairly unpredictable in that sense. It's the fact that people like Peter Steph du Toit back in the side, I think gives South Africa the chance of having a winning lead early. If that doesn't happen, then it's a game.
Watch out. I agree with you. Argentina came back last 2 games from a gap of 17 points. If it's the same this Saturday, I think it's enough. It's gone. We need to start well. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Massively agree with you both there as well. Cello, just before you go, I've got one more question for you. We had Juandre Kruger on a couple of weeks ago, and we were sort of musing about the British Lions tour. And Brendan, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up your suggestion to have a Lions tour to Argentina. Cello, I wanted to get your opinions on that. I'm sure I would hope that there would be some enthusiasm on your part and on Argentina's part.
Of course. Imagine if they come over here, the Lions. Wow. And at this time, when Argentina is playing good rugby, I would be delighted. But well, I don't know if it's in the schedule. I don't think so, unfortunately.
No.
Perhaps one day.
It's hard to argue right now that Australia are worthy of a Lions tour more than the Argentines.
Well, exactly.
The thing I think that the Lions always play the provinces during the week and as a build-up to the 3 test matches. And over here, well, they would have to play against a franchise. It's not the same level. But, well, against Argentina nowadays, yes, I think that could be interesting.
This new Northwest franchise, Uruguay. You could put Chile in as a little
that's
weaker.
true.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, it would be a different kind of tour, but the centerpiece is 3 tests against the Pumas.
That's the thing, yes.
Absolutely.
And what you build around that in South America, which is a growth area for rugby. You know, if World Rugby is serious about growing the game, then invest something in your growth areas.
Yeah.
Would be nice.
No, 100%. Well, the 3 of us would be there for sure.
It's the best tour ever. Argentina, even
Yeah.
top South Africa as a rugby touring venue.
Sadly, I've had to read all about it so far, but we can hope. And then, Chelo, ¿puedo practicar mi español entonces?
Muy bien, Oli.
Gracias. He hablado en francés. I've spoken in French on this podcast, not Spanish just yet. Yeah, so I've been holding it in.
3 idiomas.
3 idiomas, más que 3
So-
idiomas, but French and Spanish, and I'm just saying this because I know it'll get lost on people. French and
Didn't
Spanish
know
are
you
2 that I
played-
studied it.
See, this is exactly what New Zealand and South Africa are doing. They're shutting everyone else out.
Well, let's record the next episode. Next time you come on, Chelo, let's record in Spanish and see how the other 2 can keep up.
Perfect.
We'll have an
Let's
AI,
challenge
we'll
them.
get an AI translator in. Right. Well, Chelo, it's been an absolute pleasure once again. We love having you on. All the best this weekend. I'm guessing you're watching from your sofa rather than the stadium. But massively to look forward to, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon.
Thank you very much, Oli. Chris, Brendan, keep well.
Cheers, Marcelo. It'll be a
Good to
great
see you.
game.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's edition of the Rugby Paper podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on whichever podcast platform you use and recommend the show to your friends. The Rugby Paper is available to buy every Sunday, and to make sure you don't miss it, subscribe through our print, digital and online options at therugbypaper.co.uk/subscriptions. That's therugbypaper.co.uk/subscriptions to get all our content for as little as 14p per day.